Welcome to Luxury Icons, the marketing and PR podcast created by the Luxury Communications Council. I'm Rosie Shephard, the founder of the Luxury Communications Council, the world's only membership network dedicated to advancing the global luxury industry by uniting, supporting and championing marketing communication leaders. This podcast is dedicated to meeting some of the industry's most prolific leaders, delving into the challenges and opportunities that we face together. Welcome to Luxury Icons. We are here today with James Treacy, Global Communication Director of Abercrombie Kent Travel Group. Now, James began his career agency side, swiftly climbing the ranks and landing in the tourism board world where he caught the travel bug. And 6 years ago, he joined Abercrombie & Kent to lead the PR and now oversees the 5 luxury brands that all sit under the umbrella of the highly successful travel group. Now, they are said to be the next LVMH of travel. James is a hugely popular figure in the industry and is a real favourite of mine with his sharp wit and a fellow lover of connecting people he meets. James, welcome to Luxury Icons.
Thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure. Now, I want to start at the very beginning, if you don't mind, and take you back in time, hearing about some of your major career milestones. How did you get to where you are today?
I kind of fell into it, like exactly what Paula said. And I always, when I used to do interviews, I used to say I was really interested in media, and I was always reading a newspaper as a kid. I was very interested in magazines, but I haven't really said this out loud before, but it was actually watching The City. Do you remember the show with Olivia Palermo? It was kind of The Hills, but in New York City.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a really great show, and there was a public relations director for Elle magazine.
Ah.
And I was like, that's a great job. And she was in every meeting, she was involved in every project, and I just thought, that's a cool job, I want to do that. And nice. I did geography and French undergrad, so nothing to do with my job now, apart from looking at maps. And I did a marketing master's, and I interned in Dublin at an agency for a year, and that was a great setup. And then I just took a notion I wanted to move to London. I'd never been to London before, and I just started applying for graduate schemes, and I was very fortunate. I got shortlisted for a few, but the agency I did end up at, there was 500 people applied for this 5 spots in a graduate scheme, and it was back in the day when everyone was Cambridge or Oxbridge graduates.
Yeah.
So you didn't get in, and I don't know why, but they took a chance on me to even give me an interview, and I think I stood out because maybe I was Irish, I don't know, but I got the job, 5 jobs out of 500, and that was really great learning. And running an agency, it's everything. You've got a breadth of clients, and it was a generic consumer agency, but my biggest client was L'Oreal.
Oh yeah, nice.
Nothing to do with the beauty, really. What I did was the PR for the research and development. So I took journalists out to the labs in Paris to find out how can they guarantee that your hair dye will last up to 36 washes. And it was that they put the hair on the roof of the labs and they'll test the UV. And it was all the really interesting, gritty stories, but for the consumer press. I loved it. And I also worked on their philanthropy stories as well. So they run the L'Oreal UNESCO for Women in Science Awards. So I did the PR for female scientists, essentially. And I remember one of my big coups was do you remember the slot in Metro, 60 Seconds?
Yes.
It was
absolutely.
a really hard interview slot, and I got an Oxford scientist, the full page in that, because she won the L'Oreal UNESCO for Women in Science Awards, and she won £100,000 that she could spend on whatever she wanted. So it could be on childcare, it could be on her research. So it was a really great initiative, and that was really where I learned a lot from a guy called David McDonald, who was the global PR person at L'Oreal, who I'm still in touch with. And and that was that great client. But I had a travel client, and it was Air New Zealand, and they were the official partner for Warner Brothers for the Hobbit movies.
Oh, fun.
Yeah,
nice.
So we painted planes, we had Hobbits down planes, and so that was a really great client. And I was like, travel's quite nice, isn't it? And all the journalists were quite nice, and L'Oreal, it wasn't a hard sell, but not everyone was interested in L'Oreal. Or with my other clients, I had a used car website, and they're just now bought by eBay.
I don't really feel that's very
No, that's not very me. But it was interesting because we found really great stories. So we did a lot of research, which that's questionable if that's even good PR these days. It's kind of outdated, those survey stories. But we did we tried to be the champion for the driver. So if the cost of petrol went up, we always had a comment. So it was quite a good learning. So sometimes those not so sexy clients are actually the ones that make you
work harder. Yeah, absolutely.
They make you a better PR.
Yeah.
So then a job came up at Tourism Australia, and I was like, oh, I've been to Australia once. It's quite cool. And I'd always known that they were a good tourist board, and I got the job. And I was at the agency for 4 years, and then I went to work at Tourism Australia for 3 or 4 years, working for an incredible woman called Emma Humphreys, who all the editors knew, and that was my in to all the editors. Because it was Australia. They had loads of money. They were really good tourist board, and Emma knew them, and I learned loads there. And it wasn't even a travel PR job. It was interesting because their major campaign at the time was Restaurant Australia. So they were trying to reposition Australia as the world's best food and wine destination, which the food and wine is incredible in Australia, but not people actually didn't think that. They thought it was shrimps and the Barbie and a can of Foster's. So we did, one of the big projects I worked on there was we did the world's biggest dinner party, and we invited all the top food and wine chefs and journalists to Tasmania for a dinner party
so fun.
Yeah, it was great. And so my job was to escort A. Gill. So
wow.
Yeah.
That feels like an important piece of work.
Exactly,
especially now. Goodness.
And he wrote a great piece afterwards, because it was in Tasmania, and Tasmania is the end of the world. Next up, Antarctica. It's closer to Antarctica than it is Darwin. So he wrote a great piece for the Sunday Times. I'd rather be in Hobart than in Rome. And I always remember that piece, and people loved it. And he was such a great writer.
But did you make best friends with A. Gill? Did you do the impossible?
Yeah, and the blonde, Nicola Formby, she was with him. She was lovely. And I did have that Devil Wears Prada moment where we had Tasmanian devil teddy bears to give to people for their kids, but A. Gill has twins, and we'd only give him one. So it was that moment where we had to get a Tasmanian devil teddy bear in a car, traipsing over the hills of Tasmania to get to his hotel, and it's called Sapphire. It's an incredible hotel. So so that was I almost didn't do travel PR at Tourism Australia. It was interesting because the other projects we worked on were TV. And we worked with Sir David Attenborough on the Great Reef series, and we did a sand carpet premiere at Australia House in London. So instead of a red carpet, we had sand, and David Attenborough came, and he invited Prince Philip, who was alive at the time. So it was just a very really different job, but I knew everyone by the end of it because Emma was such a great PR, and Tourism Australia was such a great product and such a great tourist board. But then I got an email one day from Abercrombie and Kent with an NDA. And I was like, oh, it's an NDA. It's very serious. And it was they wanted to bring their PR in-house. They'd had an agency, and they had a new marketing director, and she wanted it all in-house. So they didn't have a function, really. And the business was very disjointed at the time, which I'll come on to later. But so I set up the whole PR function for the UK and then Europe, and now my remit's expanded to global. So I kind of just started from the beginning. So that was really great to just come in, and you do one tiny thing on a report, and they think you've changed the world because they hadn't had that before. So
you have changed their world.
So it's great. So and they wanted me to be the face of the brand at events. So my boss at the time didn't want to go to LCC because that wasn't her. She wanted me to go and be the face of the brand. So so she sent me out.
And you very much are the face of the brand. This is, James, for anyone who doesn't know, well, frankly, I'd be surprised if you don't know him. Everybody in London seems to know James. So now you're the big boss. You're the group sort of global communication director. Can you just tell us a little bit about what you oversee? Yeah,
so Abercrombie Kent Travel Group is kind of a new entity in the past few years since we have new ownership. And the ambition by our incredible CEO, Christina Levis, is to be the LVMH of luxury travel, and it's growth by acquisition. So when I joined, we had two brands, Abercrombie and Kent and Sanctuary, which is our hotels, camps and riverboats. And now we have those two brands still, of course. And we have Eco Ventura, which are expedition yachts in the Galapagos, the only Relaine Chateau there. And we have Crystal, which is our cruise line, which is, people sometimes turn their nose up when I say cruise line, but then I remind them it's got the only Nobu at sea. So, and the only casino,
get on board for that.
Exactly, and the only casino de Monte Carlo outside of Monaco, which we just launched. So it's very super. I want to say 6-star luxury, but it's more than that. It's so good. A journalist described it to me as floating Claridge's hotel. So
good. Okay, nice.
So I need to get Paula on board. So and the other brand we have is Cox and Kings, which is the world's oldest travel company, founded in 1758, and that's group tours.
Okay.
So it's quite the breadth of brands, but it's growth by acquisition and this incredible ambition to be, and we're almost $1 billion company globally. So it's an incredible business. And someone described it to me last week. We were at ILTM. They said Abercrombie & Kent Travel Group is the entire travel industry, because we have a tour operating business in Abercrombie & Kent. We have a hotel brand, which is A&K Sanctuary, which has ambitious expansion plans, up to 20 new openings the next 6 to 10 years. Wow. It's incredible. And we have our destination management companies, which are our offices abroad that our competitors technically use with their white labels. So our office in Nairobi to Santiago to Australia, so the destination management companies. So and then we have a cruise line. We also have a private jet. So we're land, sea, air, everything in between. So it's incredible business. It's complicated, but I love it. And what's great about it is everyone's lovely. Everyone's so nice. It's a really big family.
Oh, that's so nice to hear. That's really nice. Lovely. Well, I, as a hospitality specialist myself, I always found that it was a very, very sort of wholehearted industry. Everyone supports each other. Yeah, it's great. Reflecting on this journey, what's your own personal, I guess, proudest achievements since you've been with the business?
I suppose setting it all up and kind of making that network that we had an agency and they were great, but we have a face and we have a place in the industry now, and it's also ties in well with what's happening at the business at the minute. We're trying to streamline everything into what we call one NK, because we're very disjointed, which is, I won't go into it, but now we're one business and we never had a chief marketing officer, so now we do. So I'm incredibly proud to be part of that, and in the lead up to it, everything I've done has been led up into this incredible moment where we have our brand refresh, which is launching and will be launched by the time this podcast go live. So
exciting.
Yeah. So but personal things, it's honestly, I am a true PR. I want the good coverage. I can still remember good pieces of coverage. The cover of How to Spend It for Egypt, that was a real career highlight. We just had the cover of House and Garden, again for Egypt actually, for their travel issue. It's coverage. And it could be the smallest things. In the pandemic, the only marketing we had was PR, because it's free essentially. It was just my time, and so it was interviews with Jeffrey Kent, our founder. It was nice stories like that, like heartfelt stories from around the world of what they were doing in our camps and lodges when they were empty. So yeah, it's still true PR, and it's coverage and telling stories. It's storytelling.
Yeah. No, love that. I guess, leads me nicely on to ask about your superpower. Now, obviously we've curated this list of icons very carefully, of who we want to be, part of this conversation, and a lot of people have contributed sort of in terms of innovation, others in sort of more the creative capacity, others actually it's more contribution to the industry. But all of them seem to have very different superpowers and how they consider themselves sort of having, I guess, got to where they are. And, what do you think's your superpower, James?
I think, and I've been told many times, it's connecting people. And
so.
I always have that 1,000 tabs open in my head, and you might say, oh, I'm going to Stockholm next week, and I'll think, oh, my friend just launched some cabins there an hour west of Stockholm, you should go, and it's called Landet, and that means that you need to weekend. And so yes, it's connecting people, and I've never been protective of introducing people to other people, because it all goes around. And yeah, it's very Paula Fitzherbert of the world, isn't it? It's like she'll connect everyone together, but no, it's connecting people.
I love it. 3 name checks for Paula already. Let's see if we can do more. Well, obviously the Luxury Communications Council, the entire premise is connecting people, so you're definitely singing to the converted. Let's think about your audience. Obviously, it's a very, very affluent sector. The premise of founding the company was adventure by day and luxury by night. You create these incredible experiences. But the thing is, obviously, they're always evolving in what they're looking for in terms of their ambitions, their needs. How do you meet that? And what sort of needs are you seeing perhaps now that you weren't seeing before?
We just did a piece of research as part of our brand refresh.
Oh, great. Tell us.
Which is really interesting, because the common thread for most is that luxury is a standard. It's not something they're aspiring to. So they know that they're coming to us for something that they want and they expect from us. So it's how do you beat that? So there's some people that for them it's comfort, and the security of traveling with us, and they don't have to think about anything. We've checked them in for their flights. They're not in the immigration queue. We're skipping them to the front. So then for others, it's those incredible wow experiences that they can't Google, and that they want to come to us for things completely off the beaten track. They want to be dropped in the South Pole. And for others, it's that they just know that A&K are a safe pair of hands, that they know that they can trust us, and that they've got that dedicated private client manager in our chairman's club that always knows what they want. They know exactly the type of hotel, so they don't have to do the groundwork. They're busy people. So it's interesting, but the common thread really is that luxury it's not something they're aspiring to, it's something they expect, which I thought was really interesting.
And are their expectations changing? Are you seeing sort of different patterns in what people are asking for?
It's really, really interesting. I'll talk to chairmans, and they said the other day, we had this £300,000 booking. I'm like, where's it to? And it could be Kenya one day, where we've actually set up it's a multi-generational trip, and it's inspired by The Lion King, and we'll set up a cinema screen.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, it's an incredible experience. And it's very bespoke. It's not on our website. It's just us talking to the client, understanding what they want. It was a grand grandparents, taking all the family away. And the one thing they ordered was the original Lion King movie. So that's where they wanted to go to Kenya. And we set up a cinema screen in the Mara, and where they could go and watch the movie. Yeah, out in the bush, essentially.
That's so special.
So things like that. But then you might have a £350,000 booking to the Maldives. It's so interesting. So it really depends on the client, but psychographically, if you look at it like that rather than demographically, they all want like a safe pair of hands, and they know they can trust A&K. If we're operating there, it's good. And we found that with Saudi Arabia when we launched Saudi, because like Four Seasons were launching there, Aman were launching there, and A&K, that we found that was kind of like a trust of seal, or a seal of trust.
Yeah, absolutely, a seal of approval, yeah.
Yeah, that if we're there, then that's fine, we'll go. And we find that a lot, and especially now in the Middle East, obviously it's so much of a subject, or it's quite a changeable landscape. When the bombings happened in Israel last year, we had everyone out of Egypt in, I think, 18 hours. Okay. And they were met the other side of a bridge in Jordan by our managing director. So it's that point of difference, that it's not a third party. It's my colleague, our managing director of that country, that will get you out. And in the pandemic, we had private jets leaving Morocco to get people out because there was no direct flights to the UK, and other airlines wouldn't accept because they were prioritizing their own citizens. It was so complicated. So we chartered private jets to get people out. And it was through the side door of the airport. And we knew that borders were closing before they were announced because of our political connections in all the countries we operate in.
Oh, this is so interesting. I hadn't even considered. Of course, it's all about the wonderfulness when everything goes right, but then what happens when things go wrong? You guys are there to sort of pick up the pieces.
I always pitch this to journalists, and none of them want to do it, because I kind of warn them. I want to drop a journalist in, and they think everything's fine, and we pretend it's not, and we save them, because that's the story. Yeah, but unfortunately, I can't make something bad happen or ensure something bad happens. But
there's a movie in that somewhere as well.
But we can, and that's, you don't realise you're in the cocoon, the A&K cocoon is what everyone calls it, that until it goes wrong. So it's interested. So yeah,
really interesting. Just sort of staying on the positive for the moment when things don't go wrong. So you've obviously created some incredibly lavish experience. What's your most sort of, I guess, outlandish experience that's, I guess, only really for that absolute 0.0000 0.1%?
I was very, very lucky to go on the A&K private jet earlier this year. It's a 48 lie flat business class seats on a 757. And it goes on these incredible group tours around the world. And that, I think the average is $140,000 per person. But everyone thinks, I can go and I'll do that myself, that same trip. You couldn't do it. You couldn't reenact this trip. So maybe a year or two.
You mean with putting it together yourself with different flights?
It would cost you $1 million easily.
I see, okay.
You almost bring it's good value when you think about it, which isn't.
So this is one particular tour that's set format. So tell us about it.
So it's a group departure essentially, but on a private jet, on the A&K private jet, and with all of our team and there's a team of 3, and they all leapfrog. So there'll be one person ahead of the plane, one after, one on the plane, and they're ensuring everything's going well. But they've done the recce a year before, and they've got incredible stories. One of them was it was somewhere in West Africa, and the hotels are obviously not to standard there, and they more or less rebuilt the hotel. They painted rooms, they brought mattresses in, and they leave that there. So the hotel was in better shape than when we left it. And the stories they had were incredible. So one couple wanted a specific pillow, so that was in the hold, and it would be brought to the hotel for every. So when they arrived in their hotel, there was that pillow. But it's just the places they go are incredible. So the wildlife trip that they just did, it was wildlife around the world by A&K private jet. It started in Japan for the snow monkeys, and it was in do the orangutans in Malaysia, and then it went to Africa to do the gorillas, and it's all these incredible wildlife experiences but all by private air. And it meant that we have a travelling bellboy, which is you never really lift your luggage. It's on the plane and it's waiting for you in your room. And
dreamy.
It's all these. I didn't realise I needed a service until I went on this. I left my hotel in Iceland, and then when I got to my hotel in Portland, it was just there, and you didn't have to check it in. You didn't have to pick it up from the belt at the end. And there was such a little luxury I'd never thought of. And I think it's travelling bellboy, TM is what we call it, and it's such a great service. And we had that on actually all of our group tours, but on the private jet tour, they told me so many other things. Like if you were to do that trip by commercial air, you couldn't guarantee first and business class throughout because the way the routes worked, but it would have taken 155 hours. But on the A&K private jet, it was 55 hours. So it's like...
So how long is this tour that they do normally?
About 20 days.
Yeah, okay,
all in all.
nice.
And I always remember this. It always goes west, so you're never jet lagged.
Because
like jet lag kills me.
Yeah.
So it's so clever. So you're always gaining time.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really interesting.
Yes.
And there's such demand for them. I think we have 3 or 4 this year. There's 4 or 5 next year, and there's 6 plus the following year. There's quite a big demand.
And they're all bespoke, or they're fixed packages?
They're fixed packages, but different theme.
Itinerary,
They're
probably.
fixed itineraries
Yes.
or fixed departures that so they'll leave on the 1st of February and come back, and the itinerary, and one might be wildlife themed. There's one that's called Tropics to the Arctic, and it goes up and down, and it goes to the bottom to the top, and it goes to all these incredible places. And Jeffrey Kent still hosts 1 or 2 a year. So
great.
Yeah.
Love that.
And that's his basic, all the places he hasn't been. I think he's been to 160 countries. So
Goodness.
So you're going to random places with him.
I better start saving my pennies if I want to get on the February one.
It's so great. It's honestly such a good experience, and it has a 50% repeat rate.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, so people love it. They know. And the great thing about it is other brands do it, mostly hotel brands that do it, but they only go to their hotels.
Exactly, they do, yes.
Whereas we'll go, that doesn't matter. That's not the factor. It's where the best experience is. So it might be in Angola, or it might be in Benin, or then it might be in Boston, because that's the theme of the trip. So it's really, really interesting. Yeah.
Great. I mean, this sounds perfect. And I guess you get to sample some of these. Go on, make me jealous. What's your best one you've done?
Well, we always call it golden handcuffs at work. We're like, you can't leave.
The pain.
Yeah. It would be, I love the private jet because I really like planes, but it would be Antarctica.
Yeah?
It was the best trip I've ever done. It's just otherworldly. It's this incredible landscape that I've never seen anything like it. It was insane. And I like wildlife, but I'm not a wildlife nut. And after I went on that trip, I was just obsessed with penguins, and I knew the different types and the mating season. So I learned a lot. I felt like it was really enriching from a visual, and like it hurt my head a little bit to grasp it. And it was kind of like the Triangle of Sadness, this incredible yacht we were on with 150 people, and we all made friends by the end of it. And none of us would have known each other, but like it was really interesting. You threw a very interesting, eclectic group of people together, and you made friends. It was really nice.
Yeah. Great. Oh, this sounds gorgeous. And where are you off to next?
The Maldives.
Oh, stop.
Yeah. Ruined.
Right. That's not fair. Let's talk a little bit more about the company. Obviously, luxury brands often lead their vertical sectors in terms of innovation, and A&K is no exception. Can you tell us a little bit about, I guess, the founding spirit of innovation and how it continues to shape the brand's future?
Innovation is in our DNA. Jeffrey Kent founded the company not in a whim, but he got expelled from school. And he, in a rebellious mood, decided to drive from Nairobi to Cape Town on a motorbike, which 62 years ago, I'm sure was a very dangerous route. And so he took his motorbike, and what he realised was the ethos of the company now, which is luxury by night and adventure by day. So he's got this incredible, he basically had this $1 billion idea then. So he came home and he set up the company with his parents. And they were the first to bring refrigeration into the Mara. So he invented the luxury safari essentially, because no one had refrigeration before, which is really interesting. And he essentially built that model, and it just snowballed from there. He was in Egypt and met the creators of Death on the Nile while they were filming, and thought, oh, okay, I'll buy a boat, and then people can recreate the Death on the Nile essentially. That which is obviously everyone's bucket list trip to see the pyramids.
Absolutely.
So, and it just really snowballed from there. And he had the right connections and stuff. So he was the captain of Prince Charles at the time, his polo team. So it really just snowballed from there. And he always challenged the business to innovate. And as it snowballed, we just had this incredible team of innovators, and we never really rest on our laurels. And he still says to this day, like, if you can Google it, I don't want to do it.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Love that.
He loves it.
That's so smart, isn't it?
Yeah. So obviously Google is very important for our digital marketing, but there's things on our website there's things not on our website, which for me are PR gold. So we've got this thing recently, they told me that it's all, you talk to people in our offices abroad, and because they're my colleagues, it's great. For example, in Colombia, there's an ex-militia group, which they take you by helicopter right into the jungle, and you get dropped with them for the day. And you do this incredible experience. You learn all about like what they did and what they do now. So it's those incredible things that aren't on our website, because not everyone's going to do it, because we do, obviously people come to us for their classic Kenya holidays, but there's those people that want to do the real off the beaten track things. And we've got another experience where you can go into Patagonia, and it's for 5 days, I think, and you become a Patagonian cowboy. No phone, absolutely, there's no electricity. You're tenting.
I think you should do that.
I think I should do that. I think I should do that. It would probably be very character building.
It would be very character building. You might need a sort of like a little panic alarm that be like, evacuate, I've had enough.
Well, I did ayahuasca last year, and all I wanted was my phone. We're addicted.
Oh,
it's shocking.
It's awful. Don't. I mean, yeah. My husband wants to get me a Nokia for the weekends, which I think is probably a good shout.
My boss did it for his holiday. A Nokia phone for his holiday.
Yeah, that's a good shout. Yeah, but maybe you just don't need it at all. Well, we digress. I think one of the main things which we haven't touched on yet is this philanthropic spirit and the work and the effort of the group, which is really incredible and really just part of the brand identity now. It's not sort of an add-on. It's part of the product. It's part of your comms. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Again, it was Jeffrey Kent founded the business, and he was convinced that if you got the community involved and that they wanted tourists there, that would be a recipe for success, because essentially you're injecting dollars that they need, that the communities need, and then it makes them very proud of their landscape. And so it's a real recipe for success. And we've got A&K Philanthropy, which is an incredible organization, and it's very much in our DNA and the cornerstone of everything we do, and we're going to try and push even more. We just redid the website, and but it's the projects, the stories that come out of it are incredible. So one of our most successful is the bike shop project, which is where we send broken bicycles from the UK and the US in a container to communities in Africa, and I think there's one in Jordan as well, and it's mostly to help women who wouldn't necessarily get a job, to empower them to work. And they might have HIV, they might be divorced, they might have come from abusive relationships, and we teach them how to fix the bikes, and then the bike and the container is theirs. And they sell the bikes to the local community, which also helps the community because everyone has a bike. And when the container is empty, we send them another one, but it's the empty container is theirs. And a few of them are very different things, but one of the most successful is they've rented it to other women. So it becomes a community project, like a work stream together. And we give them the broken bottles, and those broken bottles are broken down to create beads and jewelry. And then we bring tourists there. And then,
wow, so that's full circle.
Yeah, it's like this ecosystem,
that.
and I give any gift I give to a journalist these days is probably from the bead shop. So we had bracelets last week that I gave to some journalists, and they loved it. So it's really nice. And then when they have another container, they build a coffee shop. And then so it's all this really nice ecosystem of like women supporting women and tourists supporting them, and the community really like it because it injects much needed visitors there. And you can do that when you stay at most of our camps. There's a bead shop nearby, and that's great. And then and there's the school project. So I brought all my editors we donate, it's called Live Straw. It's this big device. It's almost like a water cooler, and if you donate it to a school, it's $500, and it can give them clean water for years. So it can clean African river water. So it's really important. It's $500.
Right.
But one of the biggest projects that we did, which was incredible, was Jeffrey Kent convinced the president of Uganda 30 years ago to set aside Bwindi Imperial Forest for a gorilla conservation.
Okay.
And now gorillas, they're thriving. It's one of the most liveliest places in Africa. There's only 3 places you can see gorillas, and that's one of them. And we, in return, we got the only luxury lodge inside the gates of the forest. But in the nearby village, there's a hospital that we help run. There's a school. There's so many experiences, and that's one of the best ones I've been to, because you see A&K Philanthropy painted on the walls, and like thank you, and so you see the direct impact. And we deliver wheelchairs from the US there every year, so you really, really see the benefit.
They've really helped shape the community.
Yeah,
it's quite wonderful.
It's quite not overwhelming, but you get a real sense of what the difference that you're making. Yeah, so and that's a great story to tell. So yeah,
absolutely. Gosh, and I'm sure there's many more good things like that to come.
I could go on and on because what the great thing about it is we employ local coordinators.
Okay.
So they ask the community what they need, so that we don't have a cookie cutter approach, because it's different from India to Jordan. So yeah, it's interesting. Yeah,
so interesting. Well, we'll look forward to hearing more about that as it progresses. And in terms of sort of other things looking forward, what's on the horizon for 2025? What are you most looking forward to?
Ooh, work-wise or personal?
Work in this instance.
Yeah, work in this instance.
We'll do personal later.
Well, work is my life, so it's fine. So we have an ambitious brand refresh, which by the time this comes out will be launched. And
wait.
that was done by, we've never had a chief marketing officer before. So 2 years ago, we hired Peter Chip Chase, who's a founding member of LCC.
Yeah, we know him really well.
Yeah. So he's wonderful, and he's just built this Olympic team around him. He's got Kate from Belmont, Belinda from Telegraph Luxury, Evgenia from De Beers, and Stella McCartney. So we've got these incredible team around him, and we have the brand refresh next year, so it's so exciting. Before we had 3 websites, one of 3 of many, and now we have one website, one unified brand, one unified voice, and they've hired journalists from Condé Nast Traveller and the Telegraph to rewrite our website. So that's incredibly exciting to have one brand, and it's really sexy. I'm really excited about it. But we have a lot of new property openings, which is cool, because again, you will know more. A&K Sanctuary, which is our camps and boats and lodges in Africa, and now beyond, we've got our first riverboat in Peru, launching in the summer. Which I'm really excited about. And we're rebuilding the lodge in Uganda that I mentioned. So and the lodges in Uganda are being done by Luxury Frontiers, who built Amangiri, Camp Sarika. So we've got incredible designers behind that, and lots of new openings. And our cruise ship, we have new chefs on board, and it's just I don't know what's going on, but there's a lot
going on. Well, if you need a tester,
anytime, totally fine.
Anytime, at your disposal. I'll drop everything. This has been wonderful. Just before I let you escape, we have a question that we ask all of our guests. James Treacy, what is your ultimate luxury?
I thought really long and hard about this. It's space. Yeah, an empty bus, an empty tube. It gives me joy. An empty gym is my ultimate luxury.
Nice.
Because who wants to wait for things? And I'm ruined at A&K. I've yet to wait in any sort of immigration line, because they whisk you and you're basically met off the plane like a diplomat in most places. So it's space.
Yes.
Yeah.
It also sounds like, and also not waiting.
Yes.
I don't know what that word is. Not waiting.
Impatience.
Well, yeah. Yes. I meant yes. Same over here, I'm afraid. Well, this has been so nice, and I mean, it sounds like I need to start saving the pennies. It sounds like it's the only way to travel.
Golden handcuffs.
Yeah, let's do
Shocking.
it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, James. It's been wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us for Luxury Icons. This has been brought to you by the Luxury Communications Council in conjunction with Trapdoor Productions. If you'd like more information on the Luxury Communications Council, please visit our website, luxurycommunicationscouncil.com.